Right now, while you're watching this, Chinese AI companies are training models on datasets that American companies literally can't access. OpenAI, Google, Meta, they're all operating with one hand tied behind their backs, and most people have no idea it's happening. Today I'm breaking down the silent competition nobody's talking about, and why it might actually reshape who wins the AI race. Let's start with what most people get wrong. When we talk about the AI competition between the US and China, we usually picture boardroom drama or headline-grabbing announcements. But the real battle is way quieter and way more consequential. It's happening in data. It's happening in regulation. And it's happening right now. Here's the thing. China has something the US doesn't. It's not smarter engineers or better funding, though they have plenty of both. It's access. Unrestricted access to massive amounts of real-world data. When Baidu or Alibaba or ByteDance build an AI model, they can train it on data from their own platforms. Billions of videos, conversations, transactions, search queries. It's all there, all unregulated, all fair game. The Chinese government doesn't restrict how companies use that data. There's no GDPR equivalent. There's no privacy law stopping them from feeding their models everything. Now look at the US side. OpenAI trained ChatGPT on public internet data, books, code repositories. That sounds like a lot, right? It is. But here's what they can't do. They can't train on Facebook's data. They can't train on Google's search history. They can't train on your Gmail or your location data or your purchase history. Why? Because there's legal liability. There's privacy regulation. There's public backlash if they try. American companies are legally and culturally forced to build AI with one hand behind their backs. So what does that mean in practice? It means Chinese models get trained on data that's more recent, more diverse, and more reflective of actual human behavior in the real world. When you're building a model to understand how people actually use the internet, how they shop, how they communicate in 2024, having access to live platform data is everything. It's like training a chess engine by letting it play against every chess player in the world versus training it against published games from history books. But wait, there's more. And this is where it gets weird. American AI companies know this is happening. They know they're at a disadvantage. And they're not publicly saying much about it because it's politically awkward. If OpenAI or Google started loudly complaining that they need to relax privacy laws to compete with China, they'd face immediate backlash. Privacy advocates would lose their minds. Congress would have hearings. It's easier to just not talk about it. Meanwhile, Chinese companies are doubling down. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is pouring billions into AI research. Why? Because they have a goldmine of data, billions of hours of video, user behavior, engagement patterns. That data is training their models in ways that Western companies simply can't replicate. And TikTok isn't even the most aggressive player. There are Chinese AI startups you've probably never heard of that are using data advantage to build models that are competitive with or better than Western equivalents in specific domains. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The US regulatory framework that's supposed to protect privacy might actually be handicapping American AI development. I'm not saying privacy laws are bad. Privacy matters. But there's a real cost to that choice, and that cost is paid in the AI race. It's a trade-off, and we're not having an honest conversation about it. So what are American companies doing about it? A few things. First, they're buying or partnering with companies that have alternative data sources. Second, they're investing heavily in synthetic data, using AI to generate training data instead of relying on real-world data. It's clever, but it's not the same. Third, and this is the sneaky part, they're lobbying quietly for regulatory changes that would let them use data more freely. Not publicly. Behind closed doors. You won't see press releases about it. There's also the geopolitical angle. The US government is very aware of this disadvantage. That's why we're seeing restrictions on Chinese companies' access to advanced chips. The US can't beat China on data access, so it's trying to handicap them on hardware instead. It's a different kind of competition, and it's escalating. Chip export controls, tariffs, sanctions on Chinese AI companies. These are all moves in the same game. But here's what worries people in the industry, and they're not always comfortable saying it publicly. What if the data advantage is too big to overcome? What if American companies can't catch up even with all their other advantages? We're talking about a scenario where Chinese AI models become genuinely better at certain tasks, language understanding, recommendation systems, real-world prediction, because they trained on richer, more diverse, more current data. The weird part? This might actually be good news for users in the short term. Competition is healthy. If Chinese companies build better models, that pushes everyone to improve. But it's bad news for American tech dominance. And it's bad news if you care about things like data privacy and individual rights, because it proves that those values come with a real cost. So where does this leave us? The AI race isn't really a race for better algorithms or smarter researchers anymore. It's a race for data and the regulatory freedom to use it. And right now, China's winning that race. American companies are trying to catch up through other means, but they're operating at a structural disadvantage. And the craziest part? Most people have no idea this is even happening. The question isn't whether American AI is better than Chinese AI. The question is whether American companies can stay competitive when they're legally and culturally prevented from using the same tools their competitors use. That's the real competition. That's what's actually at stake. If you want to stay ahead of the hype and understand what's actually happening in AI, not the headlines, but the real structural forces reshaping the industry, subscribe. I break down one of these hidden dynamics every few days, and this stuff is only getting more important.